Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are taking an exhilarating shortcut past the simple plot of a story and plunging right into the truly deep mechanics of its fictional universe.
That's right. We've got this extensive analysis of a narrative that, on the surface, seems straightforward.
Right. A mysterious arrival, some reality-bending physics, and a pretty dire warning about cosmic collapse.
And if you've encountered this story before, you probably know the headline. A stranger appears out of nowhere, delivers this terrifying prophecy about the end of the world, and then, poof, vanishes without a trace.
Exactly. But that surface-level drama is, it's almost secondary to the incredible architecture that's built underneath it all.
It really is.
Our mission today isn't to just retell the plot. We want to extract the underlying, almost scientifically rigorous concepts the source material used.
We're talking about the operational laws of this broken multiverse.
Yes, we're dissecting reality glitches, the hard mechanics of parallel timelines, and the absolutely terrifying physics of what happens when two worlds actually.
The sources really elevate this from standard sci-fi to something more like theoretical physics made real. They treat terms like the fold and convergence not as these abstract plot devices, but as concrete, quantifiable failures of space.
So we're moving completely beyond the simple idea of a guy teleported into the past.
Way beyond. We're analyzing the specific, devastating cosmic instability that propelled him into our reality in the first place.
And what's immediately fascinating right out of the gate is the foundational premise. This stranger is not from our history.
Not at all.
He isn't from some deep past we forgot or a distant future we haven't reached yet. He's from a completely parallel version of it.
He's a piece of Earth, too, and he has just intersected with our established Earth 1.
The sources are so definitive on this. The reality he comes from is fundamentally different, sharing no common linear history with ours. Okay, so let's unpack this core distinction.
Let's do it.
So let's start with his stated place called Aloria. Now, it's really important to clarify what the source find this as.
Yes, this is the foundational point.
It is not a lost city, it's not some secret country hidden in the mountains, and it is definitely not Atlantis.
No. The analysis really stresses that if you call Aloria a location, you fundamentally misunderstand the nature of the entire threat.
So what is it?
Aloria is the entire architecture of a separate existence. We have to define it as a complete world, a whole planet, running on a divergent parallel timeline relative to ours.
So less like crossing a border.
And more like flipping to an adjacent quantum reality. If we are Earth 1, then Aloria is Earth 2. They exist concurrently, side by side, but they're separated by these incredibly powerful dimensional barriers that, in theory, should never ever fail.
And the differences are profound, right? It's not just like slightly different tech or a different president.
Oh, we're talking foundational differences that imply a massive divergence point far, far back in geological and even evolutionary history.
How far back are we talking?
We are talking about modified continents, land masses that diverged because of different plate tectonics, maybe 100 million years ago, not 100 years ago.
Wow.
Which leads to a completely different historical timeline, where the basic choices and environmental pressures led to unrecognizable societal and technological paths. The separation is total.
That framework is it's crucial because it changes the stakes instantly, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
If the stranger were from our future, maybe we could change his reality or learn from. But because he's parallel, his entire being, physical matter, his memories, his whole culture, it's all fundamentally foreign physics history of our Earth 1.
He is an anomaly in the truest sense of the word.
And the source analysis really leans into the physical evidence he carried with him. This wasn't some traveler trying to blend in.
Not at all. He was a walking, talking anomaly that basically broadcasted its own incompatibility with our world. The clues were definitive, and the scholars investigating him, they recognized the chilling implication almost instantly.
Okay, let's start with his clothes.
His clothing, yeah. The sources stressed that these garments were completely alien. They didn't match any known terrestrial era. No identifiable textile fiber we've ever seen, no familiar stitching pattern, no design philosophy from any civilization we've ever cataloged, ancient or modern.
So it's not just that they looked weird, the very stuff they were made of was wrong.
Exactly. It suggests material science, design methodologies, manufacturing processes that just don't exist in our chain of events.
Sure.
Our world never developed that particular chemistry or industrial base.
And the implication there goes deeper than just fashion. you know.
It goes much deeper.
If the materials themselves are alien, it suggests that the fundamental components of Eloria's the plants, the metals, the raw resource, are themselves different from ours. His clothes weren't just weird, they were literally composed of matter that shouldn't exist in our reality.
Precisely. And then you have the language barrier, which gives us an even more unsettling insight into how deep this divergence goes.
Right.
The analysis notes that his language doesn't match any known linguistic root. Now, think about the vast tapestry of human communication on our planet. Almost every single language, from the smallest tribal dialect to global languages like English, can be loosely traced back to some ancient proto-language root.
But nothing. It's just completely divorced from the evolutionary development of...
It's just an entirely separate linguistic and potentially even cognitive development. And this brings us to that one really chilling detail mentioned in the analysis.
The accent.
The accent. That even his accent sounds like mixed voices. This isn't just unintelligible gibberish. It implies a linguistic structure so foreign that our brains, which are hardwired to parse linear human speech, they struggle to process it as a single cohesive voice.
What could mixed voices even imply on a technical level? Is it frequency shifting or some kind of composite language?
Well, it pushes the boundaries of biological and cognitive science, at least within the narrative. It could imply that Elorian communication involves complex harmonic or multi-frequency vocalization that we perceive as conflicting or multiple sources speaking at once.
That's fascinating.
Or, and this is maybe more frightening, it suggests a nonlinear thought process where the language itself encodes multiple layers of meaning simultaneously. It would create this auditory cognitive dissonance in anyone from our timeline who's listening.
So the main takeaway is this is not a dialect. This is evidence of a completely separate path of human evolution.
Yes. The narrative seems to suggest his civilization evolved completely differently. Maybe they integrated advanced technology into their biology very early on, or developed vocal cords through totally separate evolutionary pressures. He doesn't just look out of place. He is fundamentally constructed to function within an alternate set of physical and biological laws.
And this all leads us to the critical defining moment for the scholars in the story, doesn't it?
It does. This is the turning.
They had all this circumstantial evidence, the clothes, the bizarre language, but the ultimate irrefutable confirmation of his parallel origins came when they examined a relic from his world, the map.
This is the point where the theoretical idea of a parallel world becomes undeniable, terrifying fact.
It's the smoking gun that doesn't just suggest a difference, it proved an ontological separation. When they looked at the stranger's map, the discrepancies weren't small, localized errors. They were immediate and absolute geological impossibilities relative to our Earth geology.
We're talking continents with radically wrong shape, defying millennia of established plate tectonic movement on our planet.
And missing land masses.
Exactly. Crucial land masses, entire islands or peninsulas we know exist, were just gone. And conversely, the map showed brand new land masses, vast continental shields or submerged land that should not, under our geological history, exist.
I think we need to emphasize the scholar's perspective here, though. This isn't just a misdrawn map from some remote ancient era. How did they know for sure it wasn't bad cartography?
That's where the rigor of the analysis in the source material really comes in. The scholars could cross-reference the mineral compositions and geographical markers shown on the map with known geological structures of our Earth 1.
Oh.
And they realized that the entire underlying tectonic structure was incompatible. So, for example, if a landmass existed on the Elorian map where our Atlantic Ocean should be, it implies a fundamental, irreconcilable divergence in the formation of the planet itself.
A divergence that must have happened
Hundreds of millions of years ago. It definitively confirmed that the stranger was from a parallel timeline, Eloria Earth.
And that distinction, paramount. It solidifies that the entire conflict that follows is based on multiverse instability, a catastrophic breakdown of dimensional barriers, not just a simple linear time paradox.
Exactly. Understanding Eloria as Earth 2 is the foundation upon which all the rest of the terror is built.
So we know where he came from, this Earth 2. Now we have to tackle the catastrophic how. What exactly?
Right.
The sources make it so clear. This is not a Star Trek style jump gate or some machine operated by a switch. It's something far, far more chilling. And here's where it gets really...
The sources define the fold as a fundamental failure of the cosmic infrastructure. It's a glitch in the space-time fabric where the normally insurmountable barriers between two universes accidentally shear and then overlap.
The key word there being accident.
Absolutely. It is a catastrophic failure of physics maintaining the It's called the dimensional quarantine between realities.
It sounds like a wound in reality itself. How does the analysis actually describe the mechanism?
The source uses some really powerful analogies to help us visualize this chaotic concept. It's described like a tear in the fabric of the universe or a crack in the timeline. But the most illustrative one, for me, is a corrupted file in reality's code.
Okay.
If you imagine our universe, Earth 1, running on one perfect digital code, and Eloria, Earth 2, running on an adjacent code, the fold is the moment that code just breaks down. It's the instant when data streams from two different incompatible programs momentarily cross-pollinate, and the result is a dangerous, unstable overlap.
And that detail is so crucial. The stranger didn't travel intentionally.
Oh.
He didn't activate this rupture. He fell through a broken reality when the cosmic barrier failed. He was a victim of a physics disaster, landing somewhere he was never supposed to be, without any of the necessary protection.
And this explains his immediate state of confusion and distress. There's that line, "Don't touch it, you'll trigger the fold again."
Right.
That highlights his knowledge that the very presence of his timeline's physics causes inherent instability. The energy, the matter, the simple incompatibility of his existence with our reality served as a catalyst for repeated dimensional stress.
So given the chaos of his arrival, he would have needed something for immediate stabilization, right? To stop our universe from just violently rejecting him.
That's where the device comes in.
And that brings us directly to that critical piece of technology, the glowing, highly complex device. It's identified not as a weapon or a phone or a key, but as a reality.
And its function is tremendously complex, linked directly to the fundamental principles of dimensional mechanics. The sources say it served three vital roles that kept him coherent in an alien reality.
What were they?
First, it was a stabilizer. It was attempting to harmonize his Earth 2 physiological and quantum signature with our Earth 1 reality.
So it was essentially trying to lie to our universe about where he came from.
Yes, kind of cloaking device for his very existence.
Okay.
Secondly, it acted as a tracker, which would have allowed his people, or maybe the defensive infrastructure of Eloria, to locate the precise spatial temporal coordinates of the glitch that brought him here.
And
Third, and this is maybe the most important part, it served as a continuous connection to his original timeline, a sort of umbilical cord, supplying the necessary data or energy to maintain his equilibrium and cognitive function in the hostile environment of Earth 1.
the sources mention that Eloria's civilization uses this kind of tech to move or observe timeline layers under controlled conditions. So this implies they do this kind of thing routinely.
Under controlled conditions, yes. It's a technology designed for stability that went catastrophically wrong when it was exposed to our uncontrolled and incompatible environment. He needed that anchor to even exist here, even for a moment, because the physics of Earth 1 were actively trying to undo him.
And this is where we hit the fatal flaw, isn't it? The ultimate incompatibility that turns this from a sci-fi story into a horror story.
It is. When the reality anchor fell into our world, it instantly began to malfunction. The analysis is very clear on this. Our physics simply could not handle it.
What does that mean, though, specifically? That our physics couldn't handle it? Is it just too advanced for us?
It's more than that. It suggests a profound clash of fundamental law. Imagine if the anchor operates by, say, locally manipulating the Higgs field, or it relies on a fifth, non-native dimension for its energy source.
Okay.
When you place that in our reality, which follows standard four-dimensional spacetime and established quantum mechanics, the incompatible energy requirements create this massive stress. We're talking about incompatible quantum signatures at the dimensional boundary, generating enormous ontological pressure.
It sounds like it's violating the laws of physics.
It is. The device tried to stabilize non-native entropy, and in doing so, it fundamentally violated our universe's second law of thermodynamics.
And the outcome was swift and dramatically violent. It's a stark warning to the scholars studying.
The ultimate rejection. The device literally turned to ash. This wasn't just a breakdown where the battery died. This was our universe violently initiating an antivirus protocol.
It's the universe purging an anomaly.
Exactly. The incompatibility was so total that the device's matter itself was destabilized and rapidly deatomized. It speaks to the inherent hostility and defensive separation between these timelines. Our universe has a powerful, instantaneous mechanism for self-preservation when it's confronted with a direct ontological threat.
Which brings us to the stranger's disappearance. So abrupt and so deeply unsettling. He's in a holding cell, and the analysis details this with forensic precision.
No broken locks, no forced entry, no footsteps, no evidence of any conventional escape.
The man just ceased to be there.
We have to interpret this as reality performing a major violent correction of the mistake that was introduced by the fold.
So the fold itself fixed the problem.
In a way, that chaotic crack in space-time, it reopened for just a split second, acting like a cosmic cleanup mechanism. It was a temporary, localized rupture designed to vacuum out the anomaly it had accidentally introduced.
So it's like a temporal vacuum, just sucking the incompatible element out. But wait, why did it only take him? The device was right there, starting to turn to ash.
Well, because the device was already on its way to being purged. It was destabilized matter.
Right.
And our reality was already breaking it down. The stranger, however, was the primary point of incompatibility. He still contained an Earth 2 biological and cognitive structure that was trying to function.
So he was the bigger error in the code.
He was. The fold brought him here, the anchor tried desperately to stabilize him, and when that anchor failed, the fold was forced to initiate the ultimate correction protocol, remove the source of the anomaly entirely. It was reality hitting the undo button on his arrival.
But the narrative makes it really clear that this wasn't a clean erasure. The damage had been done, and the very mechanism of reality was now
Deeply unstable. The story wasn't over. It was just beginning.
And the narrative takes this massive leap from what seems like a solved mystery to a full-blown existential threat. It happens the moment the scholars examine the disintegrating reality anchor.
Even as the device is crumbling to dust, they see it.
That cryptic, horrifying warning flashing across its surface. Convergence. Delay.
And that warning elevates the story exponentially. Convergence is the catastrophic, defining conclusion of the instability that was introduced by the fold. It's defined as the moment two entire timelines, our Earth 1 and Aloria's Earth 2, collide, overlap, merge, or just crash into each other. This is the irreversible final collapse that the stranger was so desperately trying to prevent.
And this isn't just one city getting pulled into another. This is the multiverse equivalent of a high-speed car crash where every law of physics we rely on is just destroyed.
Right. And our sources detail specific, dire, and truly terrifying consequences that speak to a complete breakdown of established existence.
The analysis gives us 5 key results of a full convergence, and I think we need to explore each of them because they really define the cosmic horror of this narrative.
We have to. First and foremost, if convergence happens, the foundational rules of our universe fail. Physics.
What does that actually look like, though, on a human scale?
Imagine localized areas where gravity just reverses, or where the speed of light is drastically lowered, or where the chemical bonds that hold matter together simply fail.
Chaos.
Total chaos. Predictability ends. What was solid becomes fluid. Causality becomes a meaningless concept. The laws that maintain the structural integrity of our world are breached by the incompatible laws of Eloria, leading to fundamental inconsistencies everywhere.
Okay, so that's the first one. What's the second consequence?
History collapses.
That sounds bad.
It's a societal and cognitive disaster. The established chain of events that led to our present moment just dissolves under the pressure of two realities competing for dominance. Our collective memory of the past could be instantly overwritten by Eloria's history, or even worse, become a nonsensical, chaotic mashup of both timelines.
So suddenly, monuments we know may have never existed.
Exactly. Or heroes we revere might be replaced by historical figures we've never even heard of. The very foundation of identity, our historical timeline, it just becomes meaningless.
And then there is the material instability. Third concept, objects double.
This is the moment of peak ontological confusion. Imagine walking outside and seeing two identical versions of your car, or two physically distinct, identical versions of the skyscraper across the street, both existing in the same physical space.
How is that even possible?
The source material suggests this is a result of quantum overlap, where neither reality can fully assert its dominance over matter. So you have half an Earth 1 structure merged with half of a radically different Elorian structure in the same location. It leads to architecture that defies geometry and structural integrity.
The sensory dissonance of that alone must be psychologically shattering.
It is the sensory equivalent of a fatal system error. Where does one reality end and the other begin? The eye sees doubles, the physics models fail, and the mind just. It attempts to reconcile irreconcilable.
And this material instability, it leads directly to the fourth cons, right?
It does. Worlds overwrite each other.
Which means our geography is actively being replaced.
Yes. Our land masses, our cities, our entire environment could instantly be replaced by the alien geography of Eloria, with its different continents, its different flora, maybe even a different atmospheric chemistry. Imagine looking at the familiar skyline of New York one moment, and the next, seeing it replaced by an Elorian technological nexus that runs on alien physics. Complete environmental substitution.
And that brings us to the fifth, and for me, the most terrifying consequence, the one that strikes right at the heart of humanity.
People from one timeline replaced.
This is where the cosmic horror becomes intimate. It's personal.
It is. This suggests an almost immediate, seamless substitution of individuals. It's not people melting or transforming. It's an instantaneous ontological exchange. Your neighbor, your colleague, your brother, your wife, they might suddenly be replaced by their Elorian counterpart.
Who looks identical.
Looks identical but has no memory of your Earth 1 timeline. operates under slightly different societal norms, and may even have incompatible biological processes.
The psychological toll of realizing that everyone around you is potentially a replacement and that you could be replaced at any moment. It's the ultimate form of societal terror. There is no certainty of personal identity left.
It wipes out established relationships, collective memories, personal histories, all without a trace. This isn't just mass death, it's mass ontological substitution. It's the narrative mechanism that ensures the absolute comprehensive failure of reality as we understand it.
So the tragedy of the stranger's sudden disappearance is now compounded by this knowledge. It confirmed he failed.
His whole mission was to stop convergence, but his forced violent exit, coupled with that last warning on the device, it implies the catastrophic event is still in motion. It's merely delayed.
He managed to deliver the warning, but the window for any kind of solution just slammed shut the moment he was purged from our reality.
And that failure means the threat is now imminent. Which brings us to the final chilling piece of evidence analyzed by the sources. That last whisper heard after his disappearance. The gate is opening again.
Chill. That simple line is the absolute confirmation that the fold, that critical glitch in space-time, it didn't close properly after the reality correction.
The timelines are still dangerously rubbing against one another, like two volatile cosmic membranes vibrating at incompatible, escalating frequencies.
So his return wasn't the end of the crisis.
It was the activation of the final countdown to convergence.
And if the gate is opening again, the crucial question shifts from who was he to the much more terrifying question, what is coming next?
The stranger was just one man, an accidental travel, but the potential for larger, more fundamental, or even malicious anomaly is vast and horrifying.
The source material speculates wildly on the escalation of this threat, and these speculations are critical warnings for the listener about where this narrative is going.
We can see parallel creation.
What does that mean?
Biologies that evolved under an entirely different chemical rule. Maybe they're indifferent to our gravity or our atmosphere. These would be anomalies of life itself, crossing over into an ecosystem that is completely unprepared.
Or what if it's not alive? What if alternate physics could cross over?
That's another terrifying possibility. Not just a temporary glitch, but a localized, stable pocket of Elorian physics creating deadly environmental hazards. Imagine sudden areas where the laws of thermodynamics are inverted, or where light behaves in fundamentally inconsistent ways, rendering entire regions instantly lethal or just incomprehensible.
We could also see different biology entirely, couldn't we? If life in the Eloria timeline evolved based on, say, silicon or some other radically different elemental structure.
The exposure of those divergent biological structures to our ecosystem could be catastrophic.
Yeah.
It would function like an instantaneous, irreversible contamination or plague that our own biology has absolutely no defense.
And then there's the really disturbing thought of other versions of us. Imagine meeting a version of yourself who evolved under the high-tech, different historical path of Eloria, and they carry within them the strange, destabilizing physics that led to the collapse in the first place. The psychological impact on a society encountering its own parallel yet incompatible shadow. That's a deep form of existential terror.
It really is.
But the ultimate fear, the one signaled by the stranger's desperation and the increasing instability of the fold, is the arrival of beings that have evolved specifically for travel between timelines.
Right. The stranger was pulled through a failure. What happens when something crosses the barrier intentionally?
If the stranger required a sophisticated reality anchor just to stabilize himself, what does it imply about an entity that requires?
A traveler adapted to multidimensional stresses would possess an inherent ontological stability that we just can't comprehend. It would pose a threat that actively seeks to capitalize on the instability. The source warns this puts the whole world in danger, which suggests these beings don't just survive convergence.
They thrive on it.
And may be actively working to accelerate the cosmos.
Stepping back, this analysis really reveals a narrative framework that successfully blends incredibly detailed concepts, the definition of timelines, anchors, glitches, with this fundamental human and cosmos. It's a true masterclass.
Absolutely. We've moved so far past a simple time travel plot. This merges rigorous sci-fi mechanics with philosophical mystery, leverages high-stakes multiverse theory, and then finally it settles into the pervasive dread of cosmic horror. The narrative depth comes entirely from the rigorous operational definitions of the fold, Eloria, and convergence.
This deep dive has allowed us to move from just a surface-level story of a mysterious arrival to a full appreciation of a terrifying cosmic frame. We've established the key detailed insights. Eloria is not a place, but a parallel timeline built and found.
The device was a reality anchor fighting a constant battle against ontological rejection.
And convergence is the catastrophic collision of resulting in the substitution and, annihilation itself.
And reinforcing these distinct elements is so vital. It reveals that the stability of our reality is, it's incredibly thin. It hinges not on powerful gods or ancient magic, but on the continued flawless separation of adjacent universes.
And the system designed to keep us safe is demonstrably failing.
And that failure is completely chaotic.
And that leads to what I think is the most chilling implication we uncovered today. The fold is not a sophisticated machine, it's a physics failure, a glitch. It's uncontrolled and highly unpredictable.
Which means that the mechanism for collapse is purely chaotic. We are not facing a cunning villain who can be reasoned with. We are facing a structural weakness in the very fabric of existence that operates without intention or mercy.
Precise. The danger isn't intentional. It's an inevitable collapse if that dimensional shear continues to expand and the ontological pressure keeps mounting. We're facing the universe failing at its most fundamental.
It's a terrifying thought.
Which brings us to a final provocative question for you to mull over as you process the implications of this conversion. We know our timeline violently rejected the highly advanced reality anchor, turning it to ash because our universe couldn't support its existence. It initiated a violent correction protocol.
Right.
So if the next thing to cross over is a being that has evolved specifically for timeline travel, a creature whose very essence is designed to challenge our fundamental physical laws, how exactly would our universe react to that ultimate incompatibility? And what would be the true cost of its inevitable attempted correction on a global?
The terrifying possibility remains that the correction protocol for that level of anomaly might not just be a snap back to a stable reality, but the destruction of our world itself as the only means to maintain ontological integrity in the face of Ablap.
A truly terrifying thought to end. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into collapsing realities and glitching space-time.